A new controversy unfolding this morning, and it involves a war of words between a tech titan and the White House.
Facebook's Mark Zuckerberg claiming that he was pressured by the White House to censor content related to the COVID-19 pandemic. A White House official releasing a statement in response to the claims, not completely denying them, instead standing by its position at the time. A lot to talk about. ABC's Aaron Katersky joining us here now. So what exactly is all of this about?
This is about a broader conversation between big tech and government about social media content and how it should be policed. And for a long time, Facebook has faced criticism that it was silencing voices that went against the medical orthodoxy, especially about the origin of the COVID-19 virus. And Mark Zuckerberg is effectively conceding now that that criticism may have something to it. In a statement, he says, "I believe the government pressure was wrong, and I regret that we were not more outspoken about it," effectively saying that he did bow to pressure from the Biden administration to silence criticism or silence these theories that the virus was somehow man-made. "I feel strongly," Zuckerberg's statement continues, "that we should not compromise our content standards due to pressure from any administration in either direction, and we're ready to push back if something like this happens again." Now, the White House said in its own statement to ABC News this morning that its position has been clear and consistent. "We believe tech companies and other private actors should take into account the effects their actions have on the American people, while making independent choices about the information that they present." And this is not just about COVID-19. This involves the Hunter Biden laptop controversy. This involves donations that Mark Zuckerberg's wife made during the 2020 election. Zuckerberg says he believes that Meta should now be neutral, so he's going to pull back donations, and he says he's changed some policies and practices to make sure that he does not bow to pressure in any political direction.
I mean, it's so interesting that they're not monitored the way we were. Our industry 20 years ago was very much what social media is now. We were under strict controls in the news business in a way that social media just isn't.
It isn't. And in fact, social media companies say that it's not really up to them to invade on anybody's free speech. But implicit in Zuckerberg's statement is that they have the power to police their content. They know what's being said, and they have the power to take it back if it violates their protocols, and they have the power to let it go unvarnished.
That's a lot of power.
It is a ton of power, huge. And there's a debate whether it needs to be regulated.
Well, and especially when a lot of this conversation is being driven by the House Judiciary Committee Chairman, Jim Jordan, who has been very outspoken about conservative voices, in his view, being silenced online. We're 70 days out to the election. What is the level of concern, not only from the government standpoint, Congress as well, but also these tech companies themselves, that what people are viewing and seeing and having access to as we head into a very important election may not be accurate?
There's a lot of concern that what people are viewing is not accurate. The influence of AI, the influence of the social media companies' political views themselves. Facebook here says it wants to be neutral, but neutral in and of itself is its own problem. So the best advice that people have is to make sure you give a little scrutiny to what you're seeing on your feed. And realize that it may not necessarily be exactly what it claims to be.
What does this say about the power and influence that big tech has on this country? I mean, we're talking about free speech here, but how much free speech should be allowed? I mean, is there some kind of policing that needs to be in place?
And Shirlene, that was President Biden's point during the pandemic, that he said that misinformation about the pandemic was literally killing people.
Right.
And that's why he
There's
wanted
statistics behind that.
And that proved that at the time.
Yeah.
That's right. And that's why he said social media companies had a responsibility. Conservative critics like Jim Jordan said that there should have been more of a discussion about masking, about the origin of the COVID-19 pandemic, about all those criticisms that we've heard, and that social media didn't allow for it. On the political side, social media has a lot of power, but they also they get zapped by the Russians, by the Chinese, by the Iranians who want to sow disinformation, and how much of that is on the shoulders of the social media companies.
Because I think part of the conversation, we're wrapping up because I know we have some other stories to get to, but I think
it's such a good conversation.
But the conversation is that, you know, Facebook and X and all of these other platforms are just that. They're platforms, whereas ABC News is an organization with people vetting information, sending it out through different sourcing. Facebook is an opportunity for anyone who has an account
So there
to
is
get
a
on and
market
spread
difference
information.
there for sure.
Yeah.